Hey guys, welcome back to CJ's Kitchen. Today I'm doing another Pantry 101 video, and this is one I've been wanting to do for a while. Today we're going to talk about cooking utensils, the day-to-day utensils that you use to prepare food. This is going to end up being a pretty long series. I'm probably going to break it up into bits. And so like I say, I'm going to start with the actual cooking utensils, and then I'll do some other videos too on things like pots and pans and servingware and things for baking and all that. So that's actually the first thing is that I want to make a point of, is to say couple things as far as this video in particular goes. And one is that the intent of this video is to give you an idea. If you're buying things for a kitchen for the first time, you're starting from scratch, here's some starting points so that you're not buying a million things and having more than you need. So with that in mind, I think it's important to think about what kind of cook are you and how much are you going to cook. So if you like to get in the kitchen all the time and you like to, cook things for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, actual, meal things, then this video is for you. If you're looking, if you're a cook who's more into baking, this is not gonna really cover so much the baking utensils. And I would say that it's important to think about which of those your focus is going to be. Are you a young person who's actually going to be eating out a lot or living off ramen? Maybe you're in college and you're not actually going to do a ton of cooking. Then you might want to take some of these things with a grain of salt. The other thing is, of course, if you're more into baking, if you're somebody who's baking cakes, cupcakes, cookies, pies, things like that, and you're not, maybe you eat out a lot or you do a lot of, carry out or whatever, then again, this video may not be the right one for you. But if you're looking to stock your kitchen and you're wanting to know what are those absolute essential tools that I need to get started, hopefully this will give you a good overview. So that's where we're launching off. So one of the first things that I would recommend is to get a set of tools that are, they don't have to be very expensive. They should be plastic or silicone or something that's heat resistant but not metal. So what I mean by that is, there's a lot of sets like these out there that you can get that'll have, and this one used to have a spoon similar to this. This is no longer that spoon. This is a replacement that I finally purchased separate. But so it'll have usually a slotted spoon, a pasta, I don't even know what this is called, to tell you the truth. I should look that up. But anyway, these are for pasta. These are like, and I think some people use them for salads, but they're really great for doing like spaghetti and stuff. And then usually some sort of a pancake flipper spatula, for flipping things, and a ladle. And ladles are really, really handy to have. You can get by without one, but it's really great if it includes a ladle. So if you do soups or you do a lot of pasta dishes, those are super handy. So of course then you should have a spoon, something of this nature. And usually the sets will include them. This one, the one I had finally, I think it finally just broke. And so I bought this as a replacement. This one has a metal handle, and then it's, or a metal, I guess handle, and then it's, plastic on either end. And this one's been really nice so far. It cleans up very nicely. I also have an all metal version. But anyway, that'll usually come in your set. Now, one thing is that, and I think there was another spatula with this set too that I thought I grabbed. Oh, here it is. So there were two different kinds. So this one's a little more flexible than this one, and this one's a little smaller. So this one's really great for like burgers and pancakes and things, although honestly, it's not my favorite for that because it is a little thick right through here. Same goes for this one. It's a little actually kind of thick, so it's not great for scooping, but this is good for, I'm trying to think what I do use it for. I guess for flipping fish, when I'm cooking fish. It's good for burgers as well. And it's a little sturdier than this one, so if you're pressing down on anything, it's kind of good for that. I don't use these nearly as much as I used to because down the road I bought a more flexible version because I really like the more flexible ones for things like fried eggs and stuff. So I have 2 of these. This one's the biggest one, and then the other one's about a third of this size, or 2/3 of this size or whatever. It's just a little bit smaller. And I use it a lot. So you do want to be careful that it's not too floppy because then you'll have a hard time keeping the food on it when you go to scoop it up. But anyway, so spatula, this is a type of spatula that is for, you know, flipping food when you're cooking it. There's other kinds of spatulas that are more for like scraping bowls, you know, like a rubber spatula. So the next thing that I would recommend is a good pair of tongs. And I think it's worth it to spend a little extra if you have to get the non-stick grips on the end. And this one, man, it's well loved. It's chewed up. It is dishwasher safe, so it goes in the dishwasher. It's scratched. I mean, I've had it for a long time. I have 2 pairs. I have this one with the coating, and I have another set that isn't. But you definitely want the ones that that will pop open. They have this mechanism on the end, and so right now it's locked shut, which is great for storage. And then when you want to use it, you push it in, and they snap open. And so you've got your tongs. Obviously, there's a variety. There's like extra long ones if you're doing a lot of grilling on like an outdoor grill. But these are perfect for inside, and I use these sometimes for pasta instead of this. I love this for spaghetti and fettuccine and stuff, but sometimes these are really handy for that too. And sometimes I'll use this, and I'll also be like sauteing, you know, mushrooms or onions and peppers and things that are going to go in the dish. And so, especially if I'm doing like a stir fry kind of thing with noodles, a lot of times I will use these, and I'll just use it for both things, and it's really handy. So a good pair of tongs is really worth spending a little extra money. Don't get the really cheapy ones that are just kind of open all the time. You know, spend a few extra bucks and get the really nice ones. So the next tool for me that I use all the time is either wooden spoons or the rubber spatulas. And I've gone to silicone spatulas. So Rachel Ray used to call these spoonulas. I don't know that these are literally, but they're a little bit concave inside, so you can scoop things with them. They're really flexible. They're dishwasher safe and heat proof because of the silicone. But they work for just so many things. I think the only thing that they don't excel at is for serving, but I do it anyway. So I really, really love these, and I use these a lot more than I use wooden spoons these days. I really especially love these for scrambled eggs because the eggs just tend to not stick to the silicone. So these are so loved. One thing about this is a few years ago, I bought a package of like 3 or 4 more of these, but they had a plastic handle or an acrylic handle, clear see-through. Don't do it. Unless you're at a store and you're able to like tug on them and mess with them and be sure that they're sturdy, I wouldn't recommend those. And the reason being, it's definitely worth it to get the wood. There's a little extra care involved. And the reason being that every single one of those has broken. Right off the bat, I right away had the heads separating from the handle. I also, they all just snapped off at some point. They just broke like in mid-mix. So not good. And so the great things about these is they're multi-purpose. You can use it when you're doing baking things too. So we have a little bit of crossover. But like I say, they're fabulous for scrambling eggs. I love it for any kind of a stir fry if I'm not using like these. Like if I'm browning meat and I'm doing veggies and I'm messing with pasta, I might just use this. But if I'm literally doing a lot of stir frying and maybe I have stuff that's pre-cooked that I'm going to be adding, this is my go-to tool. So I do still love my wooden spoons, and I have a lot of them. But one thing I would say about wooden spoons is look for good quality ones. This is not a place to cheap out and get like the cheapest thing you can find. I'm gonna grab this other spoon. This isn't a great example. I'm gonna admit up front that this is not a great example because this is actually a really good spoon. But I want you to notice the difference in color. So this happens to be a really good quality. This is a Pampered Chef wooden spoon, and it's in good shape. I don't particularly care for the shape of this, but this is nice if you're like scooping stuff out of like a can of, you know, if you're using like canned tomato sauce or something, or I have to admit that we eat canned chili sometimes, and these fit down in the cans really nice. So, but other than that, I don't care for the shape very much. I much prefer the more rounded ones. So these are the best for things like, you know, mixing stuff. But I find that now that I have the silicone ones, about the only time I use these anymore is like when I'm baking cookies and things. So again, crossing over to baking. But that's what's great about wooden spoons, is they're good for all of that. These are great for stir frying. I just really prefer these now. But sometimes I'll pull these out if these are both in the dishwasher. So, but the point I wanted to make is notice the difference in color. So sometimes you'll see spoons like this that are really light colored. They're just the flat out natural wood. Normally I'd be all for that. But what I found is that they don't hold up as well. And they do tend to, food and stuff tends to stick to them more. They don't clean up as nice. They don't hold up. You actually shouldn't put wooden spoons in the dishwasher. You should always hand wash them, because the process of the dishwasher will definitely damage them. And just case in point, look at the handle on this silicone spatula, because I put these in the dishwasher all the time. And actually they're both pretty chewed up, but this one's the worst. So that's one thing I would say is, you know, it's better to hand wash it and be gentle with it, and it'll last you a lifetime. This other spatula I have, I bought them at the same time, but I use it a lot. So look how it's like bubbled and it's getting discolored, but it still works great. So anyway, when you're looking for the wooden spoons, I would look for ones that look finished. That's the way I would put it. They look finished. They shouldn't have like a varnish on them, but they should have kind of a, they should have some sort of a finish about them. They should be super smooth. They should, you know, I think what they do is they probably oil them with like, I don't know, but there's definitely a difference. And, you know, these have been really great. Even so, some of these have split on me, and, you know, so you do have to, again, you have to take good care of them. But I would pick your poison, right? Pick which one you like the most. But I would get at least either wooden spoons or a bunch of these. These are really great to have. So, moving on. The next thing I want to talk about is knives. I'm not going to claim to be an expert on knives. I can tell you what I like to use and what I think as far as the types of knives, as far as the style of the knife. But when it comes to brands, I'm not going to claim to be an expert, and I'm sure there's probably lots of videos out there. There are a couple things I've heard about selecting a knife. Well, one in particular that I've learned that's important that I can share, and that is that the tang of the knife, this part, should extend all the way through the handle, and that will be a sturdy knife. They're usually going to be anchored something like this. I have these, you know, green handled knives. If you've been watching this channel, you've seen these. You can't tell how it's secured, but this is a lovely grip. So if you can find something that has a really comfortable grip, that's good. These are the same general type of knife. They're both chef knives. But you can see that the green handled one's a lot longer. It also has a little more curvature to it, but there's something else about this knife. So I want you to look at this one, and you can see this kind of beveled edge. That's your actual blade edge. And you should be able to see that, and that's, if you get your knives professionally professionally sharpened, or even if you hone them a lot or sharpen them a lot, that's going to eventually wear down. So one bummer about this knife, this came in a set, it was a gift, and I'm the only one who has a problem knife that I know of. My sister has a set, and she gifted a set to my parents and to me, and I'm the only one who ended up with a weird knife. Actually, I think she might have got some for her daughters too. But look, you cannot, it's never had really a discernible blade that you can see. And now there's very little of it left. So I'm gonna have to take this into a professional sharpener, and I hope they can salvage it. I hope it'll still be a really good knife because it's my favorite. But anyway, these chef's knives are, if you had to only buy one knife, this is the style knife I would get. These are great for chopping. You can slice meat with it. They're just fabulous. If you can buy a couple kind of knives, there's 3 altogether I would recommend. I would recommend a chef's knife. I would recommend a serrated knife for slicing bread. And so that's going to be something like this. So you can see that it's serrated. And this one's fabulous for slicing bread. If you use something like this when you're doing your bread, sorry, my cat is trying to interfere. Anyway, if you use something like this, you're gonna squish the bread, where the sawing action on a serrated knife is gonna, you know, slice through it really delicately. So these are a great option. Last but not least, I recommend a paring knife. Now there's a lot of other knives that are handy, and that if you buy, say, a set of knives, you'll probably get, you know, there's fillet knives, you know, for like filleting fish and stuff. There are knives for roast. In fact, this set has a really good one for roast that I love and that we use for carving. But again, remember, we're talking about, you know, you're just starting out. So those are knives you can look into adding as you go. But I do think a good paring knife is essential. And the reason being that you're going to have things like, if you want to peel apples, for instance, you cannot beat using a paring knife. I just find that using a vegetable peeler, just for whatever reason, doesn't work very well with an apple, for instance. This is going to be good for, you know, slicing up olives for tacos, or doing small chopping work when you only need a few things and you're not doing like a big, you know, big dish or something. You know, so like if I'm making something that has a lot of different veggies and I'm doing things like onions and bell peppers, and then I'm also doing smaller things, then I'm just going to use this for everything. But if I'm doing maybe just a few olives for, say, some nachos. Maybe I'm just making some nachos for myself for lunch on a day like today when I'm home alone, then I'm just gonna get out the paring knife. So these are really handy. And then also, if you have someone else in your kitchen, these can be really useful. Like if you have guests over and other people are cooking with you. So on that note, obviously another thing would be a vegetable peeler. I really think it's worth spending just a few extra, it's not that much more expensive to get something like this OXO Good Grips one. It's really comfortable in the hand. I think this one works left or right-handed. I'm not 100% sure, but I have a niece who's left-handed and I feel like she's been able to use this. So this is really nice, and I really think it's worth it. I've bought more than one because I've had them. I did have one that like wore out after a while, and then I finally got a new one. So these are really great. The next thing that I think is essential is a good cheese grater. Now, if you're lucky and you've had a housewarming, or you've just gotten married, or you've been saving up for a while, you might be lucky enough to have like a food processor or something. But even then, I think it's really nice to have just a hand grater for when you need it. I still to this day don't have a food processor. I have a little mini chopper, but I don't have like a full-on food processor. I get along fine without it, and sometimes I really lament the fact that I don't have one, and then usually I find, well, you know, I've been getting along all this time without one. I think I'm okay. But if you're gonna get a grater, I recommend these box graters. These are fabulous. So you have your typical grating for like the larger grate for like doing cheeses, doing potatoes, or other things. You have the finer one, which is great for like Parmesan, or like if you just want finely grated cheddar. You have this, which does slices or shavings, and you could even use that with like, I think you can use that with like chocolate and stuff too. And then last but not least, you have this ultra fine, which is again, really primarily for Parmesan, but it'd be good for like grating nutmeg or something too. So one more thing about these box graters that I really like is that because they are a box, well, a couple things is one is that they're really stable. So if you're grating on, you know, something flat, you hold it with one hand and you grate with the other, and they really stay in place well. Meanwhile, because they're connected with something underneath them, you know, they fill up as you work. So it's really great because you can see how much you have, and over time you'll get pretty good at judging, oh, that's 2 cups, or you know, that's 3 cups or whatever. And so these are really, really great. I highly recommend the box style if you're gonna buy a grater. So guys, I've been having a ton of problems with my batteries, and I had to switch cameras, so I'm sorry if this looks different in a bad way, but hopefully it'll do to finish this video up. So the next thing I would recommend are some good measuring cups for liquid measuring. I have 4. I have 2 of these 1 cup Pyrex ones, which by the way, I highly recommend. I also have one that is a 2 cup, and I have an 8 cup. So what's really great is you can use these for things like, you know, beating eggs. I crack eggs right in here and beat them. And then, you know, it's easy to pour them out into, you know, your skillet or, you know, whatever you're making. Obviously it's great for things like measuring, you know, milk or oils or, you know, anything liquid. It's also really handy if I'm making, you know, if you've watched my videos at all, you know that I often use mason jars to make things like salad dressings and stuff and sauces, but this is also a good thing to do them in. You can, you know, if you're starting with something like, say, a 1/4 cup of, you know, olive oil and a 1/4 cup of lemon juice, well, you can measure that right in here as you go. And then you can add things like, you know, your salt and any other ingredients, and then you can mix it right here and it's all ready to pour. So very handy. And the great thing is you are gonna need these, like even if you're just, you know, doing really simple things, you're always gonna need something to measure, and these are a great way to go. I love these glass ones, and I know mine is kind of ugly. I promise you it's not dirty, it's just that the dishwasher, you know, with the power that dishwashers have now, I've found that all my clear glass things just start to really look bad over time. And if anybody knows how to counteract that, I'd love to hear about it. But yeah, so I have several, and I use them so much that they spend a ton of time in the dishwasher. I think the only one that looks very good is the big one, which I use, for instance, when I'm making like a quiche or frittata or something for a lot of people. So, speaking of beating eggs, oh, and the other thing about these is they're microwave safe too. So, you know, you can actually heat milk, say for, you know, a hot chocolate or something. You can heat things right in it, and that's really handy too. I also use them all the time for melting butter for popcorn, which is my favorite snack. So here's a couple more tools I would recommend. I think that one of the things we all like get excited about when we move into our first place, and if we cook at all, is hosting Thanksgiving or, you know, different holiday meals. And if you're going to be roasting a turkey or doing a prime rib or anything like that, you cannot go wrong having one of these big carving forks. I think this one came out of a set of something that my mom had. I think she actually gave this to me, or maybe my husband had it when I met him. I don't know. It obviously came from some set. It's got a very old-fashioned look about it, but it's sturdy, it's strong, and it works great. And so you use it to hold the meat in place while you're carving, and it's important, it's essential that it be a longer, bigger fork than most. So these are really, really good. And notice it only has 2 tines, and that's because that's what its purpose is. So it's also not gonna puncture your roast a lot or your turkey or whatever and let all the juices out. It's just 2 little spots, but it'll keep it nice and stable. So a whisk is the next essential thing. You can get whisks that have a coating on them, or like they're plastic covered, and if you're gonna be using them in like non-stick saucepans and stuff, it is a good idea to get those kind, or you can get like silicone ones. I haven't tried them yet myself, but I have 2 of these, you know, wire whips. And honestly, I did have some little mini non-stick ones, but they fell apart. They also filled up with water. So I've just found, you know, I just haven't bothered. I just use a fork for that stuff, but a whisk is really great for, you know, these bigger ones are nice for lots of other things. So definitely a whisk. Okay, the last thing I'm going to cover today, there are probably some things that I'm missing utensil-wise. This is, I don't know if this really fits as a utensil, but I'm going to include it here anyway because we've been talking about chopping and food prep. And so primarily that's what I'm trying to focus on today is food prep. I recommend cutting boards, and I think it's very important that you get 2, and you can get inexpensive ones or nice ones, whatever you want. I really recommend, if you're able to, you know, if you've watched any of my videos, you know that I do a lot of cutting on a big board, and that's one of those really big boards that are often built into your cabinets that would pull out. My husband was working at a place that they did a lot of kitchen remodels, and so he was able to get me one, and I have mine right next to the stove. So I do a lot of, you know, chop and drop. I'm, you know, cooking and I'm throwing things right in the pot. And if you can get a hold of one, that's a great way to go. Or if your kitchen comes with one, just pull it out and move it to your location by the stove. I find I almost never use those pull-out ones. I did when I was younger, but now I have a lot of these, and I use them instead. And that's partly because the ones that came with our kitchen cabinets really the wood's a little too soft to be using them as literal cutting boards. So I recommend getting 2. You want to get one of these plastic kind, because these, and this one's gross because I use it all the time, and so it's become really discolored. I suppose I could turn it over and start using this side. This one has a groove though that is really nice for catching stuff. So like if you're carving a roast, here's the thing, I only use this for meats, fish, chicken, beef, pork, whatever. When I have raw animal proteins, I cut them on this. I don't cut anything else on this, and that's because of cross-contamination. So this is also dishwasher safe, where my wooden boards aren't. So not only am I, you know, cutting meats and things on something that's not as that's harder to transfer, you know, it's not going to sink way down deep into what's there and cause trouble, and it's probably time for me to get a new one. But it's also dishwasher safe, so I get that extra added bonus of it's going to get sanitized in the dishwasher. So I have like a 2-point, you know, I'm covering kind of 2 points of avoiding cross-contamination. But wooden ones are my favorite, so I use these. I have okay, so I have my big one, and then I have 4 of these portable ones. I now have a very tiny bamboo one that I've been using when I do tasting videos, you know, to cut things and stuff right while I'm sitting there in front of the camera like I am now. And I just found that that's really, really handy. But for the most part, most of them are around, you know, this size. They're around a foot or larger, and they're about a foot wide. There's one that's a little more square than the other 2, whatever, but I have a variety. I think this one came in a 2-pack because the other one I have one that's a match for it in style, and they both have like this cutout here handle, and that the other one's just a little bit smaller, so I'm pretty sure I got them in a set, and that's a good way to go. But do do get a good wooden board and do make sure to get a plastic board. And I've seen, you know, like they have some that just like roll up and look like just a really little thin sheet of plastic. Do that if you need to, but I do recommend getting both. So that's where we're at. If you think I missed anything important, essential to food prep, do let me know. There's lots of other things that are essential to me, but that I think you could probably live without, as far as, you know, purchasing those first 3 things to get your kitchen going. You can, you know, expand as you go. So anyway, if you think of anything, like I say, that I missed, let me know in the comments below. Let me know if there's other areas that you want me to explore. I'm definitely gonna do one on your cooking, I don't even know what to call it, but like your pots and pans and skillets. I'll talk about those. I'm probably going to talk about, at some point I'll do one on my favorite tools that'll expand into some of the other areas. And then I will do one for baking and stuff too. So, and probably one on like things you can do, casseroles and stuff, like some of your multi-purpose vessels. So yeah, let me know what you're interested in. Let me know in the comments below. I hope you found this video useful. Give me the thumbs up if you liked it. And as always, I appreciate it when you subscribe and share with your friends. And until next time when I see you right here in my kitchen, ciao.